Almost Sideways podcast. My name is Adam, and I'm joined by our special guest, Mr. Terry Plucknett of the Almost Sideways podcast. Again, Terry, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Adam. Really excited to be here and to talk about some blind spots I have.
Yeah, there we go. So if you guys did not see by clicking on that thumbnail, we're talking about the 21 and 22 Jump Street. Two amazing comedies, in my opinion. We'll find out Terry's rather shortly. And starring Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum, two guys like really odd pairing in a way, but also really amazing at the same time. So my first question for you, Terry, is why did you miss this one?
You know, I honestly have no idea. I don't know. It was something that I remember when it came out, just didn't get to it. And I didn't really have, it was like, oh yeah, another, goofy cop comedy. Okay. And I just missed it. And then the second one came out. I was like, well, I didn't see the first one, so I can't see the second one. Yeah. And yeah, I have no idea why I didn't see it. I just didn't.
I think you and I are similar. We were talking about earlier. This is very similar in our kind of way of thinking and stuff. We also have giant stacks of movies we need to watch. Like I have a stack down here that I just need to watch, and sometimes you miss some movies and they become blind spots. So I'm glad we're able to talk about these movies today. Made you force your way into watching these films. So
I love being forced into watching movies. It's one of the few ways that I make sure I actually do.
Yeah, that's a good point. So let's talk about the first film, 21 Jump Street, which came out in 2012, which seems like it was yesterday, but also forever ago. I remember this film. I did remember go seeing this in theaters because I thought it looked really funny, but I wasn't familiar. I didn't know it was based off a TV show the first time I watched it. And then, of course, I found out that Johnny Depp actually starred in the TV show. I met Arlette.
Oh man, that cameo must have been super confusing to you then.
I had a feeling. I was like, oh, he must have appeared in the show. And yeah, I met my wife actually, and my wife had 21 Jump Street, the TV show, on DVD. Ooh. And I was like, oh, that I made the connection there. I was like, oh, there, it's a TV show. So that was pretty fun. I was like, that's pretty dang cool that it was. And then the rest was history. I thought the comedy, it was really fun comedy. I loved a lot of the moments here, and it was so meta in a way. But let's hear your takes on the first 21 Jump Street film.
Yeah, so watching it, I watched this for the first time last night, and one of the first things that stood out to me is, which I've realized over the last few months as this has come up that I haven't seen it, is that it's directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. Yep. And this duo, I was first introduced to with the Lego Movie, which I loved. That's a 4-star movie for me. It was on my top 10 of that year. And so now going back to it, say, oh, it's Phil Lord and Chris Miller. Of course I have to see this now. And so that got me, that amped up the excitement. Then you add to the fact that you have Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum, like you said, such a random combination. And I was trying to think what is the equivalent of this combination being in this movie together? Because you've got the little funny guy coming off an Oscar nomination. I mean, let's not forget that he got an Oscar nomination in 2011, and then you have Channing Tatum, who's the hunk. He's a budding action star. He was in Step Up. He was in Coach Carter. I mean, so he's kind of this jock type of guy, and it's such
coming off Magic Mike that year too.
Oh yeah, that year. So it's such an odd pair, and the only thing I could think of is this is like this generation's Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger in Twins and Junior, and just that odd pair that shouldn't even work, but it does, and that's what I get out of these guys, except kind of up a notch too, because Channing Tatum's comedy chops are vastly underrated. He's so funny and great at the physical comedy in a way you wouldn't necessarily appreciate. So that's the first part. Then I get into the movie. This cast is stacked.
So
looking
sad.
back on it now, I mean, Brie Larson, Dave Franco, Rob Riggle, Ice Cube, Chris Parnell, Ellie Kemper, Jake Johnson, Nick Offerman, Holly Robinson Pete is in this movie, hanging with Mr. Cooper's Holly Robinson Pete. I mean, so every face that pops up is like, I know that guy. I know that girl. Hey, I know that person. And so you've got this
Dakota
huge
Johnson
cast.
too.
Dakota Johnson, yeah, it's insane. So you've got the stacked cast, you've got the odd couple, you've got the dynamic duo directing, and it is just hysterical. I mean, it hits on every note. You're right too. It also is very meta. It has those moments where it definitely like nudge nudge winks winks at the camera, and letting you know that it knows it's kind of being ridiculous in this moment, but it's in so many ways it's a throwback to the great action comedies of the past that it feels like don't really get made anymore, at least not at this level, at this quality. I mean, you think of like go back to the 90s and stuff like Rush Hour and things like that. This is kind of it if it almost feels like it was groundbreaking in that way, and they don't make movies like this very often. It's hard to catch lightning in a bottle like that, and I felt like this movie did. So first time watch, I'm giving it 3.5 stars. It's one of the, we always talked about last year. We did a whole lot of lists, and one of the lists we did was the best comedies of the decade, and that's where this came up. And yeah, I can see why it deserves to be considered one of the best comedies of the last decade, because of everything I mentioned, and everyone's so good in it, and it's just so much fun.
Such an underrated cast, like you were saying. It's amazing that even though Jonah Hill got nominated for the Oscar the year before, all these actors are pretty much at the start, or like at the slight rise in their fame, popularity. And it's crazy to see, like, Brie Larson's an Oscar winner, Jonah Hill's an Oscar nominee. You have tons of famous people, comedic figures from TV show like The Office to what's Jake Johnson's from New Girl. And you got, Dave Franco in there, who is now a new director from the Rental, and he's doing more things, not just comedies and stuff like that, with not the Disaster Artist or anything like that, or other films, but he's making movies now too. A lot of these actors have come up the ranks and have blossomed in front of our screens throughout the years now. And 21 Jump Street brought all these great comedians together, and they never really overshadowed themselves. Like, no, everybody's like, oh, there's that guy, and he does his one scene, and you kind of just, you don't see him again. Like Nick Offerman is totally playing Ron Swanson, but that's Nick Offerman playing himself pretty much, I would think. Nick Offerman, great.
Nick Offerman is Ron Swanson.
He is Ron Swanson. That's the Parks and Recreation. It's a great show. All right, so let's break this movie down. All these famous characters. What little cameo or little minor character in this movie was the one that just that was my favorite little moment that he was in, or this is one of my favorite little minor characters?
I would say probably one of my favorite parts was the group of science nerds that Channing Tatum's character falls in with. I thought that crew was hilarious, and any scene with them in it was just fun. And it really played on that the concept in the movie of how what was cool, how Channing Tatum was cool when he was in high school and Jonah Hill was a nerd, and it completely flipped 7 years later just because of how the dynamics of the culture had changed. It was just so he ends up getting in with this group of nerds and learning science and about covalent bonds. It was great.
Covalent bonds. I thought that flip of the two different personalities or cultures and stuff like that, characters, the groupings that they were placed in was definitely different. You weren't really expecting it to go in that direction. I remember that, but seeing all these characters interact throughout, and where Jonah Hill was become the more popular one, and Channing Tatum's just like the kind of the outcast or the nerd in the new nerd group or whatever. I really just enjoyed it, like you were saying. But seeing a Brie Larson in this one, I don't think it's like her. I never associate Brie Larson being in this movie, so it's always a surprise that when she shows up in this movie, it's like, oh wait, that's Brie Larson. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's just such a weird role. It's not something like she's doing a whole lot in it, but she's Brie Larson in this movie, like an Oscar winner, and it's always catches me off guard every single time.
Well, yeah, she went from, start of the decade, she was in Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Yeah.
In 2010. So she went from that. 2 years later, she does this, and showing that she is like the ultimate girl next door in this too. Like she has that vibe completely. And just 3 short years later, she's an Oscar winner, and now she is a superhero and just this huge star. But I love how you can find people like that who are obviously grounded in the simple stuff like this, and that work their way up. And you can tell the way the way Brie Larson is now, you can tell where she came from, and she came from being in physical comedy because she doesn't take herself too seriously.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. Let's talk about the two main leads in this one, Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum, because actually you brought up a movie here, and I actually think it's pretty. You can compare the two actors, Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker from Rush Hour. And that's kind of, in a way, you can make a comparison where Jackie Chan is the action movie guy, where it's kind of Channing Tatum in a way too, and then Jonah Hill is the fast talker, Chris Tucker type of character.
The mouth and the muscle.
The mouth and the muscle, exactly. That's basically a Rush Hour revamp. But that's kind of a makes sense comparison, because you got Jonah Hill, who's super bad and all these like really fast teenage movies. And I guess, how many times has Jonah Hill played a teenager? That's another one, a nerdy teenager. That's another movie. That's a power rankings right there, if you ask me.
Jonah Hill teenagers, yeah.
Jonah Hill, yeah, best movies of Jonah Hill as a teenager. I love these two actors playing off each other, because they're completely just not taking it too seriously, but absolutely knocking it out of the park. And I think that a lot of that goes to the amazing writing team for this, because a lot of funny things happen, especially when they're in the bathroom trying to throw up, like, because they just took the drugs they had to take the drugs, and a lot of the innuendos and wordplay that they were able to put in this movie, that as somebody who doesn't know certain things, you might not those might go over your head, but if you're in the know, you're laughing for a different reason. You're not just laughing for the physical comment, but you're actually laughing at what's being said as well. I think that's what this movie does really perfectly. It really balances it out pretty well throughout the course of the movie.
There's such an odd couple, and it works. And I've seen so many of those odd couples not work. Yeah. And everyone's trying to find the one that's going to work. And you go back a little further, like I said, you got DeVito and Schwarzenegger in something like Twins. It's the same dynamic. It's the mouth and the muscle. Mm-hmm. And then Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker worked in Rush Hour. But then you had Jackie Chan and Owen Wilson in Shanghai Noon, and that didn't necessarily work as well. Or Owen Wilson and Eddie Murphy in I Spy, that didn't work.
But Owen Wilson
Eddie Murphy and Robert De Niro in Showtime. That didn't really work. So, you're always trying to find this odd couple and which one's going to work. And this one just did. And I think it works because you have, they're such an odd couple, but they have the same timing, and you can't teach chemistry, and they've got the chemistry.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's, you can't teach it. They just have it, and that's it. They definitely sparked it off here. I guess we're gonna move into the kind of their big reveal, the cameo that you mentioned, and because this movie's so old, I think it's okay to spoil it a little bit here. 2 cast members from the 21 Jump Street TV show appear in this one. great to see Johnny Depp in this movie.
Yeah.
I am a Johnny Depp fan, and all the stuff that's happening off camera. It's unfortunate and sad situation, but the guy is an actor. On screen, he has something, and every time he's on screen, sometimes the role is not the greatest, like The Tourist or one of the many Pirates of the Caribbean movies can kind of feel stale. But seeing in this one little cameo, it's really awesome. And I totally forgot that he's reprising. He's like, "Oh wow, you're a legend." He's like, and seeing that they were in like undercover for 5 years or something, like 3 to 5 years or something like that. It's really cool to see him just like pop off. He's like fake on his talking about his fake nose and stuff like that, and it was just really cool to see Johnny Depp in this role, and I was definitely caught off guard the first time I watched it. Did you know that this cameo was happening when it happened?
I didn't know, and I've never seen the TV show. So, but I knew it existed. I knew he was in it. I didn't know it was coming, but once it happened, it was kind of course, Johnny Depp has to show up. But what's interesting is Johnny Depp never does these kind of poking fun at himself moments. He never does these self-referential moments. He does everything almost to stay away from them. And so to have him pop up here, reprising a role and really making fun of himself, because this movie is kind of making fun of the whole concept of what he was his breakout in the 80s.
Yeah.
It was great to see, and to see that someone even like Johnny Depp could poke fun at himself in that way. Because I remember hearing the Johnny Depp story. I mean, he got his huge breakout in 21 Jump Street, and that's when he kind of became this big thing. And he could have had like any big role in Hollywood, and so he goes and does Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah.
And he decides to, no, I don't want to be the Hollywood heartthrob. I want to be the artist. I want to be known as the actor. I mean, you could almost think of it in a similar way to what like Ryan Gosling does. Ryan Gosling could be a Channing Tatum if he wanted to be. He could be in all the action movies and be the huge Hollywood heartthrob. Instead, he does stuff like Half Nelson and Lars and the Real Girl and Drive and stuff like that. And so, but Ryan Gosling's come around and being able to make fun of himself, and now it was great to see Johnny Depp have that moment where he's gonna poke fun at himself. He's gonna be goofy, and it was kind of the most Johnny Depp has ever been on screen, I feel.
Yeah. So my overall takeaway for the 21 Jump Street movie is, after watching it after so many years, I think it's just as hilarious. I've seen this movie so many times, and it actually appeared was my favorite movie comedy of the decade, or funniest film of the decade. And I think that I'm going to stand by that. It's definitely my favorite comedy, funniest film, whatever you want to call it. The comedy really holds true with me. I think all the little characters really work in. Seeing like guys like Rob Riggle, and the whole tripping sequence was really funny, and a lot of the stuff, funny humor that they were able to bring to this movie is something that I will always remember, and I always can go back to it and just rewatch, and it has such a rewatchability to this film, and it's definitely one of those ones that I absolutely love, and I'm glad we're talking about it. And so, what's your overall takeaway from this very first 21 Jump Street film?
Yeah, watching it for the first time, it definitely holds up. I mean, this movie's now 9 years old, but it holds up. It 100% holds up. It's goofy, it's crazy, it's raunchy, but it's hilarious, and it doesn't miss a beat. And so many of the things it talks about in there still hold true, and still are just as hilarious now. So yeah, definitely worth it. Definitely one of the better comedies of the decade.
Better comedies of the decade. I totally agree. Pulling up 23 Jump Street now. All right, so let's move into the second film in the franchise, 22 Jump Street, which came out in 2014, directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. Again, which is great. It stars our two characters, same characters, but it's definitely different. It plays off the sequel trope where they have bigger budgets and not as good. They relive the same plots. It's the same exact thing over and over. They poke fun.
Exactly the same as last time.
We find the drugs. What's that? That's the line. I totally remember. I forgot the line that
infiltrate the dealers. Find the supplier.
Yeah, same exact. They got Kate Blanchett with the budget. It's such a they got Kate Blanchett with a budget, and I don't know. Part of me actually thinks that this one is my favorite movie out of the two movies. I think part of me thinks that this one is better, but they're so different, but also the same in every way. It's really tough, but I love this film as well, and both of the films I've given out 3 stars to on our website. However, I think I might need to change them after rewatching because I just enjoyed them so much after watching this. What are your takes after seeing it for the very first time, Terry?
So I think I was at a little bit of a disadvantage watching this one because a great comedy sequel has to play on the nostalgia of the first one. I mean, and this one does. This might be the most self-referential movie I have ever seen. How many jokes is it going to make about the fact that they're making a sequel to their last movie in their own movie? It's ridiculous, but and they're all really funny. However, I watched 21 Jump Street last night. I watched 22 Jump Street this morning. In reality, they came out 2 years apart. If I had seen 21 Jump Street in 2012 and then 22 Jump Street in 2014, or if I had seen 21 Jump Street yesterday and 22 Jump Street 2 years from now, it would have been very different. But because I had like 12 hours to digest the nostalgia that it plays off of in the sequel, it didn't work near as well for me because I didn't have that love and experience with the first one that this one just plays with and just constantly the entire time. With that said, it's still a really funny movie. It plays off of so many of the same jokes. It follows the exact same plot line and then tries to throw the little twists in. It tells you from the very beginning, we're gonna do the exact same thing. Everything is exactly the same. I love the line from Nick Offerman at the beginning where he's like, apparently we're going to double your budget because that's going to give double the success. I don't understand how that works. It's like, yeah, what are they doing? They're just giving us money now. So self-referential. The Kate Blanchett line is hilarious. How they keep on saying over and over again, this is the exact same plot as last time. But yeah, it's still really funny, and because it plays off of the same jokes yet finds enough new ones. The funniest part of this one, well, maybe my favorite scene, the funniest scene, is Jonah Hill's slam poem about the girl who OD'd. That was insane. And then when you find out that his girlfriend is his captain's daughter, and the how Ice Cube goes through an entire meal with that that stink-eye look on his face is just priceless.
Give me priceless. Give me those damn green beans.
You gave him a high five for that. You gave him a high five for that.
I love that. Oh my goodness. Every time he says something, I'm gonna put a boot up your ass. That's the best. That's probably my favorite part of the movie too. I was laughing so hard about that. Cynthia being suggestible, moving my arms.
She's dead.
She's dead. Ba ba boom. Ba ba boom.
Ba ba beep beep bop.
Oh man, too bad we're not going to be over. Probably be across the street next time too. 23 Jump Street.
Oh, and then the whole credits where they roll out like all the way to like 41 Jump Street. What schools they're going to infiltrate? I mean, and again, huge cast. I mean, and of new people too. I mean, Peter Stormare. I mean, if you want a great villain, you go get Peter Stormare. John Abruzzi himself. And then Jillian Bell is great in this. Oh gosh, who else is in here?
You got Wyatt Russell, who's been in quite a few things like Overlord.
Oh, yeah.
He's not a huge one, but he pops up from time to time. You got Queen Latifah shows up in this one,
right? Yeah. And enough of the old guard from the last movie too. That the holdovers, like Rob Riggle pops back up, and Franco pops back up, and
This cast wasn't like there's still like little cameo appearances.
Patton Oswalt.
Oh yeah, Patton Oswalt. That's why I want you to ask questions. I love Patton Oswalt.
What do you have to say? Covalent bonds.
So I've seen this movie a lot, but I've caught something for the very first time that I didn't realize was in the first film. When they go into like the glass, their new offices for 22 Jump Street.
Oh! Look at his new office! It's like a big ice cube. I heard that too. I'm like, oh, come on, really? We're doing that?
Meet the team, guys, and it's the 3 guys from the high school that Channing Tatum hung out with.
Yeah.
I never realized that before.
You didn't realize that?
No.
And then when they do the sting at the end, it's like, and now I'm here, and Ice Cube comes in, and then they pop up behind the desk with the machine guns, like, we are also here.
We are also here. It's so great. I'm like, wait a second, weren't they in high school 2 years ago when that movie came out? Like, so they got straight into the FBI or the Jump Street program. That's cool.
They had those hacker skills, so they got them in.
No,
even while intoxicated, they were able to hack the phone.
Yeah, no, I can't do that. No, I would never do that.
No, I can't.
I can't.
No, I can't. I can't do that.
No, you can't. No, yeah. Anyway, what's your favorite scene in this Jump Street? I think we already kind of touched on it, with the slam poem and the meeting of. Was there any other like standout moments from this movie? I know you from watching it.
From 22 Jump Street.
22 Jump Street, yes.
Oh gosh.
It's definitely bigger. I know that. I will say this, that seeing how this film put Channing Tatum as the more popular person was definitely a kind of interesting twist.
Showing how he's the ultimate frat boy.
Yeah, he's like he can open beer bottles with his eyelids. And the trip out sequences of the drugs are great again. And I love the 2 different worlds, like the split cameras in this one where they show one Channing Tatum in this bright, colorful world, and you got Jonah Hill listening. I'll take you. Listen to Creed on his side of the thing in this lava dark place or whatever. That's pretty. That was great. I definitely like that kind of camera work when they have like the 2 different perspectives, the split screen things where they're showing Tatum and Jonah Hill and they're walking together. And
right, yeah.
Even my wife was like, "That's pretty cool that they were able to do that," and I agree on that. So it's some different stuff. A lot of it was just kind of the same thing, kind of in a different way, which was still a lot of fun. I love Jillian Hall. Like every time Jillian Bell, every time that she shows up, is always like, "Oh yeah, so being old, like don't touch me with those liver spotted hands, Grandpa." You were the loudest person ever. Go ahead.
Yeah. The other scene I love is the car chase where they're in the football helmet, and it's right after they were told that they can't spend any more money, and so they're going along. It's like, no, don't hit it. We can't spend any more money. I was like, you could have gone to the parking lot, and instead you went to the art gallery.
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna lose them in the robotics factory. It's like that. That's just wasteful.
That's just wasteful. Oh my goodness, who would have guessed there's so much expensive stuff in there? Yeah, it's so great. They're just really funny movies, and I hopefully you can go back and rewatch this one at some point and kind of maybe appreciate it a little bit more. I don't think you gave us your star rating for this one yet.
3 stars for this.
3 stars. Okay, it makes sense. But I have it right now at 2. I just think actually watching this one, having that appreciation of the first one, that makes me kind of like this one a little bit, but it's also really different. I also like the gag where he clearly sets up Janko clearly sets up that he loves Lamborghinis. and he's a Lambro, and he never gets to drive one in this movie. I think
Mhm.
that's pretty great. And I love the scene at the end too, where Jonah Hill is going to be the hero and try to kind of repay what Django did in the first movie and jump in front of the bullet and totally misses it, and Django gets shot again in this movie.
And then he shoots himself when he's trying
he
to pay
shoots
back
himself,
Jonah Hill.
And you
Yeah.
guys, it's just a fun time. You guys are going to medical school, and they
You guys are going to culinary school.
and then
And Bill Hader's there.
Bill Hader's there, and then they have the contract dispute where Seth Rogen shows up as Jonah Hill's character. Yeah. And then you got the Generations one where the two other 21 Jump Street guys show up for their they team up, and then you have the video game, and you have the there was another one they had the Return of Ghost, like the character. So many different sequels that I would love to see for this one. Trying to think.
Well, and I mean, watching these two movies, really, what it just shows how much I love Phil Lord and Chris Miller's style of comedy. And I mean, they've done. Let's hear it. They have directed 1, 2, 3, 4. They've only directed 4 movies. And it's 21 Jump Street, 22 Jump Street, the Lego Movie, and they started their career with Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, which I haven't seen, and now I have to, knowing that it's them.
Yeah, it's a cute movie. It's probably their weakest film, but it's still really good.
Sure. But I mean, they directed the pilot of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine. That show's hilarious.
Great show.
But they were, I think one of them, I think it was Chris Miller, was one of the brains behind Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So they have that, and it just makes me sad that we couldn't see the full realization of what they wanted to do with the Han Solo movie.
Yeah,
because they got partway through and then they got fired for creative differences because they're awesome and Disney didn't want it that way. And so they bring in the most vanilla director you could find to finish it off in Ron Howard, and I mean, I still like that movie for what it is, but to know that there was a Chris Lord, Phil Lord, Chris Miller vision originally there, I wish I could have seen it.
Yeah, we want to see the Zack Snyder cut all the time, but let's get the Phil Lord, Chris Miller.
Yeah, we want the Lord Miller cut of Solo. That's what we want.
Yeah, even though Solo is better than The Last Jedi, but still. Okay.
Oh, come on.
No, I have changed my stance on it. I might have a deep dive episode with Todd about The Last Jedi at some point. I've appreciated that more because I did not like The Rise of Skywalker. It's even worse.
Rise of Skywalker, yeah, that was. I am convinced that so much of the hatred behind The Last Jedi was everyone had their expectations of what they wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And it flipped the entire Star Wars universe on its head, which is what I loved about it. And so many people didn't.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to have a conversational piece on that one. I think that's going to be fun. Anyway, back to the Jump Street movies. Interesting tad note that I did find. I don't remember. Do you remember the Sony hack? The emails getting hacked?
Yes.
Posted the interview, which actually was one of the trailers for, I believe it was 22 Jump Street.
Yep.
I think the trailer for the interview came on, which was the James Franco and Seth Rogen comedy. And the Sony Studios was hacked, and a couple big things came out of those hackings, and obviously Spider-Man joining the MCU was one of them. Do you remember what the Jump Street related hack was?
I don't.
The next film would have combined Jump Street with Men in Black.
Oh gosh.
So it would have been, but Will Smith would not have been reprising his role.
Okay.
For it, but he would make a cameo appearance. That's what they were talking about in their email. I kind of vaguely remember this. That's what everything was happening, but it was like 23, or it was like Jump Street meets Men in Black, or 23 Men in Black, or something like that.
I feel like that had so many ways it could have gone wrong, and I'm glad it didn't happen.
But Men in Black still got ruined with Men in Black International.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm glad that would have that would have just ruined everything. It's like,
Yeah.
stop while you're ahead.
Yeah, I enjoy the Men in Black franchise, like the first three. The first one's by far the best one. The second one's fine. The third one's okay, whatever. But
I think I stopped watching after the first two.
Yeah,
but I like the first two. I just never got around to the other two.
Yeah, Josh Brolin as Tommy Lee Jones in that one is really good. He's really spot on impersonation. But yeah, it would have tarnished the Jump Street franchise for sure. So yeah. Anyway, well, we're at the hour mark on the podcast. So that we're gonna wrap it up here, I think, Terry. So that's our overall takes of the Jump Street franchise. Our first time watch for Terry. Terry 3.5 for the first one and 3 stars for the second one. We'll probably have to, maybe later down the road, maybe do a rewatch and see if you appreciated that, liked it even more the second time. We'll have some gaps in between the watches.
Yeah, I can see that these getting better and better with age they're just those comedies that as you know the jokes, it's going to get better and better.
Exactly. Last question I wanted to ask you. You got these from the library. Is this something that you add to your collection in the future?
It's something that's worth adding, I think, to the collection because it's something you can. The rewatchability of these is very high on these movies. So
yeah,
I may have to watch each of them again before I return them to the library.
Yeah, definitely. And there's fun movies, and I don't think anything. Yeah. They're innocent, but also like a party movie at the same time. It's just really fun to see these two characters play in this film. So anyway, guys, we'll wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. If you guys haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe on all our podcast levels. And we're also on YouTube where we drop clips. The clip of this conversation would be on there as well as upcoming conversations that Terry, Zach, and Todd will be having of No Man Land, a deep dive of The Silence of the Lambs, and other fun conversations as well. I'm looking forward to hearing your deep dive of Silence of the Lambs, man. That's one of my favorite movies of all time, too. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to that, too.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely looking forward to that, too. And I need to watch No Man Land, so I'm going to be doing that probably later today, too. So, anyway, Terry, any want to knock it out with a quote real fast? Do you have a quote of the day you want to just end the podcast with?
So as I was thinking about this, and if I was going to end this with a quote, there is only one quote you can end it with. Something cool! Quick, say something cool. Something cool!
So what did you say? I said something cool.
Yeah, what was it?
Something
I said
cool.
Something cool.
Well, this has been a Something Cool podcast, guys. We'll see you guys next time.